Okay, that looks all right. We'll also switch over to the live feed here on Twitch, and that way you guys can at least see what's going on, people watching at home, and hopefully that transitioned. We'll click the button one more time just in case, because computers sometimes don't like to work around here. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. So we are now live on both platforms, Twitch and YouTube. As I said, this is going to be our episode 2 watch along of Who Killed WCW. I also wanted to cover later today, we will be watching Clash at the Castle 2024 from Scotland. So that will be live later about 1:30 p.m. It's still very early. It's 10 a.m. right now. I've got nothing better to do today than sit around and hang out and watch some wrestling with you guys. So that's the goal of mine. And also later tonight, very later tonight, I was thinking about potentially we could watch The Last Drive-In with my boy Joe Bob Briggs. I wanted to spend some time with you guys. I know most of you don't know this about me, but I am a very big horror movie fan. And I've been watching Joe Bob since Monster Vision on TNT. Ironically, the same place where you could watch WCW. So that kind of just hit me now. But yeah, we're thinking about later tonight. We're going to do a little bit of a watch along with season 1. It started in 2018. Again, this is not Monster Vision. Originally, it is The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. It's his new show that he's been doing like every week, basically, for the past couple years on Shudder, which is also a service that I pay for. Because again, I'm a very big horror movie fanatic. I remember once upon a time, I would come home after school and on my TV, there would be a channel. I don't even remember the name of the channel. It was like in the 500s or the 600s. It was just a strictly horror channel. And that's pretty much what Shudder reminds me of. But I would spend a lot of fucking time back in the day watching those movies, guys. And they put me on to a lot of great stuff. A lot of the obscure stuff, you know, it wasn't like AAA Hollywood movie titles. You couldn't see like the new Halloween or the new Friday the 13th or anything, but they were definitely showing more of like the B stuff, like the campy stuff. But that's sometimes that's the shit that I actually like. Give me 1 second, chat. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Sometimes the dog gets a little crazy. Sometimes Grizzly Bear gets a little crazy. He does. All right. So, with all of that being said, we're going to get right into this damn episode. I don't know how the hell that got into like a minute, but all right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 2, Who Killed WCW? That also sounds very low volume-wise, so I'll turn that up a little bit for you guys. I guess what I could also do before we get started, we're sipping on some orange soda, chat. Got some orange soda. Nothing too crazy. So, we're going into the year 1997. Glorious year. Not only was it the year your boy was born, October 18th, but it is also the beginning of the Attitude Era in WWF. Okay, so this essentially is exactly where the Monday Night Wars start to really pick up. And this is really the height, right? This is like the prime of pro wrestling. Like, to be a fucking pro wrestling fan around the Monday Night era, they basically said that it's one of the greatest times alive. So, what's happening? WWF is shifting into a new gear, okay? They no longer want to be a comedy gimmick. They want to start to compete with the WCW. Their ratings are basically beating them every single week. Also, around this time, since it is the Monday Night War era, what Eric Bischoff decides to do, we covered in the last episode, he got a time slot just before Monday Night Raw would go on the air. Okay, so what that means, Eric Bischoff and most likely more than half of the roster backstage, they would watch episodes of Monday Night Raw. Okay, they would study all the episodes. Now, they're on about like an hour, maybe even like 2 hours before them. What Eric Bischoff is starting to do at this point is he's starting to give away the results on live WCW television. Now, some of you may not think that's big, but it is big when your fucking job is on the line and your competitor is giving away all your results. Okay? Eric Bischoff would watch Monday Night Raw. He would take note of the matches, and then whoever won, whatever happened, whatever the outcome was for the finish, he would say that to his WCW audience. Now you might ask yourself, why the fuck would Eric Bischoff do that? Why does that matter? Well, again, Eric Bischoff is doing that so people do not change the channel. Okay? Like I said, they started about an hour ahead of time before Monday Night Raw. He would give away the WWF's results. Therefore, people would already know what happened on WWF, Monday Night Raw. They didn't have to switch channels, and that was also one of the big things during this time. You know, again, this isn't the social media age. The internet is barely as popular. Fucking, it's maybe not even that popular at all. You couldn't just fucking, you know, double watch an episode if you wanted to. Like, you couldn't just watch Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro simultaneously. That shit didn't exist around this time, ladies and gentlemen. You had to pick one or the other. And Eric Bischoff, as you know, as cruel of a business decision as it may seem, he decides we're going to start giving away the Monday Night Raw results early before people actually watch Monday Night Raw, so that way they can have more eyes on the WCW episode for Nitro. Okay, it's a very underhanded business tactic. It's also, I mean, you have to admit, it's a smart play, again, by Eric Bischoff, because he's forcing people to stay watching a WCW product, okay? If you're going to basically say, like, you've never heard some shit like that today in WWE where they're just going to give away the results of a fucking AEW or something, or AEW is going to tell people what happened on WWE. It might be something that AEW would do, because I wouldn't doubt that Tony Khan has that fucking punk side to him. But again, this time for wrestling fans, it's pretty significant because it really hurts the WWF in a way. They now have to figure out how to fight back against Eric Bischoff, who's basically just studying everything that they're doing. Also, what happens around this time? Well, one of my favorite wrestlers, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, Bret Hart, decides to sign with the company. Probably like a little bit more like 98. It happens like way after the Montreal Screwjob chat, all right? He's got to go through the Montreal Screwjob first. He's got to get fucking tired of Vince's bullshit. And then Bret Hart pretty much just says, I'm fucking out of here. But unfortunately, what happens when he does go to WCW, they put him with probably one of the worst wrestlers of all time, in Goldberg, okay? And Goldberg didn't know a fucking thing that he was doing out there in a wrestling ring. Nobody ever fucking taught the guy how to train properly. They never taught him how to wrestle properly. So they put Bret Hart with Goldberg, and what does Goldberg do? He throws a fucking super kick and ends the career of Bret Hart. Now, again, this is probably more like 98, 99, because Bret Hart has to go through his entire Shawn Michaels rivalry. He's got to go through the fucking Stone Cold rivalry, and then he's got to go through the Montreal Screwjob before he ever even gets to a WCW ring. But unfortunately, when he does get to WCW, his fucking career is ended before it ever even gets started, because Goldberg wasn't fucking trained properly, doesn't know how to fucking wrestle, and they put the guy over to the point where he was basically undefeated and had some kind of streak to where absolutely nobody was gonna fucking beat the guy besides NWO members. Okay? Let's just put that into perspective, what's going on in WCW. We'll start with the episode.
By 1997, we had built so much goodwill with the audience. As a result of the NWO, we were absolutely on fire. 83 weeks straight, WCW Nitro defeated WWE. And then all of a sudden, boom.
So once again, ladies and gentlemen, the current year at this time is 97.
He's the president of Turner Sports, and by proxy, you could say WCW.
So I answered it. Hey, Harvey, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? I said, I'm good. Before you hang up, I want to let you know, Nitro was having so much success on TNT. Ted wants to do another primetime show for TBS.
The Thunder. Something on that superstation.
I hung up the phone. I thought, this can't be real.
They weren't happy enough with the ratings they had.
Oh my God, come on, remote. There we go. Okay, so basically what they're saying is around 97, this is the beginning of 97, right? Not the end. So this is still the beginning of the year. Fucking WCW Monday Nitro is doing so successful and they're so popular, Ted Turner basically agrees to have another show featuring wrestling and featuring the WCW. He decides to give them the program Thunder. Now, does that sound like something the WWF also did? You're damn fucking right, chat, okay? Because originally, the only two programs you could watch was Monday Night Raw and fucking Monday Night Nitro, okay? It was WWF, it was WCW. There might have been some shit on the weekends, like a fucking Saturday night's main event and, you know, other shit like that. But really, your two main shows were on Monday at this point, okay? One was on USA, one was on TNT. Ted Turner agrees to give WCW Thunder on TBS. Sounds a little bit like also what's going on with AEW today, okay? AEW Dynamite originally was on TNT, then switched over to TBS. Rampage and Collision, I believe now, are both on TNT, okay? So it's something that's happened throughout the fucking history of pro wrestling, okay? This is why two shows exist, and I don't think a lot of people understand that either. Monday Night Nitro got so successful, they wanted to make more money. They wanted to get more ratings. So how do you do that? You fucking put another show on television. Maybe it'll be on Wednesday. Maybe it'll be on Thursday. But you'll have another show.
They wanted to expand, not realizing you're going to weaken the Monday show.
I mean, things were going so well. You're giving them such a great show on Monday night that the idea of doing another show live, 48 hours after I just got done producing one, there's no way I thought it could work. But I didn't want to be the guy to tell Ted, no. That was my mistake.
So now, after 97, they immediately transitioned here into 98. So now the year is 1998. Basically, WCW has been granted a second show, okay? And Eric Bischoff even said right there, he basically had to produce the show 48 hours after a Monday Night Nitro. It's a pretty fucking complicated task, okay, ladies and gentlemen? Running wrestling shows and promoting them is not that fucking easy. Now you have to do it on a Monday night slot where you're going against probably your biggest competitor. And then again on Wednesday, you're just trying to draw more ratings and you're trying to get more people interested in a WCW product. This is all in 1998 is the year that we're in now.
TBS said, sure, we'll take the show. We just don't have it in our budget. We can't pay for it. So reluctantly, we should just pay for it out of WCW's budget. That's what Ted wants. The challenge right off the bat, audience fatigue. Because now they're seeing too much of the same talent.
So what they're saying here, TBS didn't have even enough money to grant WCW a second show. What did Eric Bischoff do? He used the money that he was getting from Nitro and Ted Turner, and he put that into the production for Thunder. Okay, but he's also saying at this point, what you're really doing to wrestling fans is just draining them out. Okay, they're starting to become fatigued because basically the entire week they've been watching pro wrestling, and not only that, they're starting to see some of the same faces on both products, okay? And that's not a good thing either. You want to draw out your stories in a way where each show is going to be significantly different from the other, okay? What that means I've said it time after time with AEW. Tony Khan, you got to get your fucking booking straight, okay, buddy? Because you have no idea what the fuck you're doing when you're trying to run 3 fucking shows, it seems like. What it means, you have to show exclusive superstars on Nitro. You have to show exclusive superstars on Thunder, okay? Now, we don't gotta fucking pull a bitch-ass Logan Paul to where the guy doesn't even show up and defend the championship every week, but I'm just saying you should have exclusive superstars on that roster specifically to draw people to buy tickets to watch them, okay? If they're gonna see fucking Sting and Goldberg on both nights, sales are gonna go down, okay? Because you're trying to attract people to that specific event, right?
Even though we had a very deep roster, if we're going to do another show, I thought that roster has to be substantially unique. That's why I brought Bret Hart in.
I was at the top of the heap of the WWF during those days. I beat Undertaker for the title. I beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was a WWF guy. You know, I think I was a big part of the success that they had.
I like Bret. A lot of respect for that man.
Bret Hart, somebody I probably had my best matches with. Ultimate respect.
I loved Bret Hart. He was like a national hero in Canada. People respected him. People looked up to him.
I emulated some of my style from Bret Hart. Like my suplex.
Bischoff says, what's it going to take for you to come to W?
Honestly, guys, I'm just going to say this right now. If it wasn't for wrestlers like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, half of your fucking current WWE would be in the shits. Half of your current fucking AEW would be in the shits, okay? Because they all mimicked their style. They all got inspired from people like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. They were game changers. Once they stepped into the ring, it wasn't just fucking grapples and submission holds anymore. It was guys actually doing fucking moves all over the ring, okay? And that's why Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels had the opportunity to wrestle in the first ever 60-man Iron Man match, which basically went to an overtime. But that basically just tells you right there how good they were in the ring. Almost every wrestler that you see today has a little bit of Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels in their wrestling style. It's just a fact. They are two of the most revolutionary superstars in pro wrestling history, okay? They have both inspired people after them to basically wrestle in a way that they did, okay? So if it wasn't for guys like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in 97 and 98, your fucking current WWE would probably just be filled with the 5 death moves of John Cena and shit like that, okay? So you gotta give respect when respect is due. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, they changed the fucking game entirely.
WCW. We got up to 2.8 million a year. So I joined WCW. First night I walked out and I got a great reaction.
I needed an anchor for that show. Bret was critical to that.
But it went downhill from there.
It sounds to me like you people are a little disappointed in me.
They're flying me down from Calgary, and then they tell me I'm off for the night. And the next week I do the same thing again. Just sit in the dressing room and...
So basically what's happening here, when Bret Hart does finally leave the WWF, when he does make the decision to walk out of the company, now he joins forces with Eric Bischoff and the WCW. The fans take that as a traitor move, right? They feel like he's betrayed the WWF, even though if you kind of understand what was happening at this time, Bret Hart had all the fucking right in his decision making to actually make that kind of choice, okay? He could go to whatever company he wanted. And honestly, WWF, they were at a point where they were going to start pushing guys like Stone Cold, Triple H, fucking The Undertaker, okay? They were going to start to focus on the future of the company, Okay, they weren't worried about Bret Hart anymore because Bret Hart was established. And that's part of the reason he got fucked over so much in the end. They wanted to take the title off of him and push other guys on the WWF roster. It was a change of times, okay? But when he arrived in WCW, the fans felt like he betrayed the WWF.
And do nothing. Eric, he apologized to me many times and said, I'm so sorry about how we brought you in. Everything he ever said was a lie.
We already knew that we were running thin.
You had Monday Night Nitro, and then you had 2 days that you had to do house shows.
That's followed by a 2-hour Thunder.
We had a Saturday show.
So they're even saying right here they did Monday Night Nitro. 2 days they would do house shows, which are pretty much untelevised shows, okay, ladies and gentlemen? You're still on the road when you're a wrestler. You don't get to go home to your fucking family. You're going to be working and you're going to be making money. Now, they would do Monday Night Nitro. They do 2 house shows, which are not on television, but you're still working. Come Thursday, they're going to do a 2-hour program of Thunder. And they're also saying on Saturday they also had wrestling as well. So it sounds a little bit like a fucking Tony Khan move in my playbook.
And then you might have a pay-per-view or something in there.
You're basically booking 10 hours in 2 days.
You're booking 10 hours in 2 days.
Have any kind of attention.
You're booking fucking 10 hours of wrestling in a matter of 2 days.
There's so many times we didn't have finishes for this and finishes for that because it was so time consuming.
What Kevin Nash is saying, there were times that shit was so jumbled and out of place, they had to come up with finishes on the spot because half the shit wasn't even written. The writers didn't even fucking finish the matches. So now you gotta go out there and make shit up on the fly.
Adding to the NWO, let's create the Red faction.
We got some new colors going on.
Let's create.
So what also happens around this time in 98, they start doing the NWO Wolfpack, okay, which was kind of like a direct competition to the NWO. It's kind of how I've also said the WWE's version of the NWO to me felt like the original bloodline with Roman and the Usos, and then they created a new bloodline, right, with Solo and the Haku twins, Tama and Tangaloa. So, what's happening is the NWO Wolfpack was created. It was pretty much led by guys like Kevin Nash, originally Kevin Nash, Lex Luger, Macho Man Randy Savage. It was essentially all the guys who weren't already in the NWO. Kevin Nash had a little bit of a rivalry with Hulk Hogan. It's a complete fucking mistake on their part. They should have never fucking did shit like this. It's part of the reason WCW got criticized for being how stupid they were at that time. But again, really the only people that were getting put over in a WCW program, you had to be NWO. You had to be fucking one of the NWO members if you ever wanted a future in WCW. And that's pretty much what they're saying.
The Latino faction.
The Latino world order. You just can't pass t-shirts out and water down the greatest show in town.
There were too many people, wasn't cool anymore.
If you watch one match, you watch them all. Every show ends with a run-in. There's about 20 guys running in.
Basically, they're saying if you've seen one match, you watched it 1 week, you've fucking seen the match the next week, alright? That's how I felt last night with the SmackDown episode. Didn't need to watch it. We've already seen that shit happen before, ladies and gentlemen.
Creating momentum is really, really hard. The only thing harder than creating momentum is maintaining momentum.
Thanks for having me here, Mr. President-elect.
We lost our momentum, and we find ourselves in a rebuild mode.
April 13th of 1998, something significant happened, which was Raw beating Nitro for the first time in the ratings for 22 months.
So in April 1998, this is the first time Monday Night Raw has actually defeated WCW Nitro in the ratings.
WCW and Monday Nitro became a huge primetime hit. Those numbers exploded because it wasn't just men 18 and 34. It now became families. So my eye was on Goldberg.
I was born with something. I'm fucking 6'3", 280 pounds. I could go from 0 to 100 and 100 to 0 in 60 seconds.
And you would also break your fucking neck in a matter of seconds, Goldberg, because you don't know how to fucking wrestle at all.
And that's the beauty of the character that we came up with. I am the fucking character. I am Goldberg.
Let me just put it into perspective for everybody watching at home, okay? Let me just tell you this. In the 80s and the 90s, the people's perception of Hulk Hogan was that he's fucking real-life Superman, okay? Just give yourself that image. Hulk Hogan is Superman, right? Now, what does that make Goldberg? I would compare Goldberg to the fucking Kryptonite, okay? Hulk Hogan is Superman, Goldberg is Kryptonite. There's your fucking image, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't think there ever had been an athlete, a star, a performer, professional wrestling that rose as quickly.
Goldberg learned how to do two fucking moves his entire WCW career, was a spear and a jackhammer. That was his fucking moveset, ladies and gentlemen, and he would end his matches in fucking minutes. It'd be like a 2-3 minute match. Dude gets hit with a spear and a jackhammer, they're fucking dead, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know if you know who this guy is, but I've got the picture. I know all about him. Bill Goldberg, former Georgia Bulldog and Atlanta Falcon.
I was never the best football player by any stretch of the imagination.
And you weren't the fucking best wrestler by any stretch of the imagination.
In 94,
the Falcons couldn't train you, and fucking you're lucky that WCW picked you up because you were fucking at least making them some money.
Seriously considered becoming a professional wrestler. I had to come up with something where I felt as though I was continually building upon.
Even the fucking Atlanta Falcons couldn't train this guy how to be a fucking good football player, chat.
I gave him the short black boots, black tights. He didn't talk.
Now, what also they did for the Goldberg gimmick and the Goldberg character, what does Goldberg wear to the ring? Well, he wears black boots and he wears black trunks. Sounds a whole lot like somebody who's also popular in the WWF at this time, who they compared Goldberg to relentlessly, and Goldberg said time after time he hated the comparisons. They would always compare him to Stone Cold. So essentially, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the one of, if not the greatest wrestler of all time for the WWF product, now it feels like a little bit of a copycat version going on here in WCW with a dude who's just a little bit taller, a little bit stronger, but he's got a little bit of a different gimmick, okay?
Sir, I've got to give a bit more than that.
Mike Tyson, black boots, black shorts. Didn't need to talk, just come down and do that.
Now this guy's saying he got the idea because of Mike Tyson. I fucking highly doubt that was ever the case. Mike Tyson also around this time was actually working with the WWF, so Vince McMahon did a good job at that time trying to get boxing fans also more interested in the wrestling product. When fucking the greatest boxing heavyweight champion of all time is on your television show, that helps the ratings, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Tyson was a WWF fan. But I highly doubt the Goldberg character was ever inspired from Mike Tyson. I doubt that.
Anything like it anywhere. Let's just put them out there and have them squash people. Kept doing it. People kept loving it. Why would you mess with that?
There were a lot of people jealous.
Bill's a fan, Bill's a mark, Bill's a football player.
Someone should have taught him or pulled him aside and said, hey, Bill, you do know that this is pretend, right? He didn't.
This is a fucking television show. I know when you tackle somebody, you think it's real. But the person getting fucking potatoed in the corner's had enough.
So basically, I would assume that one of the reasons Goldberg used a spear is because it reminded him of tackling people for the Atlanta Falcons. He wanted to be a fucking football player out there, chat. So he used a spear so he could fucking tackle guys and try to end their careers quicker than it even got started, okay? And he's actually fucking out there hitting you, right? He's not playing around. He's actually taking shit for real. And he damn near might fucking snap your neck if he's not careful, okay? Just put that into perspective. So now you gotta wrestle Goldberg. You already know you're gonna fucking get killed storyline-wise. This guy might even fucking kill you in reality.
I feel bad about it, but as long as the intent is not there, it's not my fault. You can't blame me.
Jesus Christ, dude. Like, get some skills.
A lot of jealousy. This guy hasn't paid his dues, and Goldberg doesn't love this like we do. You know,
they can all kiss my ass. I'll take that criticism on the way up because I'm still that guy.
And even a lot of the WCW roster, they felt underhanded, right? They felt like bringing in Goldberg was a slap to the face because, again, here's a roster of all these guys that you have signed to you. They've been fucking wrestling here for years now. They've spent time in Japan. They've spent time in Mexico perfecting all of their skills. And what happens? They bring in an NFL superstar like Bill Goldberg, and they're gonna start pushing him to basically beat Hulk Hogan and the NWO and shit like that. It is just a slap to the face, ladies and gentlemen. I say the exact same fucking thing with bitch-ass people like Logan Paul, okay? You don't fucking bring a YouTube celebrity in our fucking world and then try to promote him like there's some kind of fucking greatest wrestler of all time. I fucking hate that shit, okay? I've been watching it since fucking 1997 and shit with the fucking WCW, and people gotta start trying to fucking understand that. This isn't fucking Logan Paul's Playhouse and shit like that, all right? If he wants to fucking have fun, he's got a YouTube channel for that shit, all right? And somehow he's got fucking millions of subscribers on that shit too. But here's the fucking thing. It's complete disrespect to all the people who have sacrificed, all the people who don't even get to go home to their families. They're fucking out there on the road 5-6 days a week, sacrificing their bodies for our entertainment, okay? And you got a fucking United States champion who doesn't even fucking show his face around the company or defend the title.
And you guys tried every frickin' thing you could do for me not to be that guy. And who prevailed?
And again, Goldberg, the only reason you fucking prevailed over everybody is because the writers did that shit for your career, bro. It wasn't because you actually fucking had the skill to beat people. They did that shit for storyline purposes, okay? You were booked that way. You were booked to be the fucking person who was gonna take down the NWO and shit like that. That's how they fucking booked you. Same way the company tries to book Logan Paul in fucking main events that he doesn't deserve either, okay? Again, it doesn't add any credibility to him as a wrestler. It's just the fucking way that you were promoted and the way that the people are supposed to have an image of you.
I felt that Goldberg was really the phenomena that could bring advertisers and all the other stuff that they're buying or they're consuming. The kids loved Goldberg. They loved that character. And they loved the fact that he was undefeated. All anyone ever wanted to talk about was Goldberg, Goldberg, Goldberg.
So I'm in LA one day, and I get a phone call from Hulk. I got an idea. I'm going to wrestle Goldberg, Georgia Dome. We're going to put him over clean. The time is right. This is the time.
It's going to be Hulk Hogan versus Goldberg in the Georgia Dome. Georgia, the home WCW built themselves. And basically, I mean, you can even see right here, at this time, Goldberg's the fucking United States champion in WCW. I mean, this is just fucking so much like the WWE product today, ladies and gentlemen. With Logan Paul, I can't even fucking tell you. I don't even know where to begin. Fucking Goldberg, at this time, he's the United States champion, okay? He gets booked in the match against Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan still with the NWO. This is Hollywood Hulk Hogan, black and white. And the fucking Hulkster is going to lose the title for the first time he's ever agreed to in his career. They're going to try to put Goldberg over, right? So Goldberg is not only going to be the United States champion, he's also going to be the WCW World Heavyweight Champion, okay? It's one of the things I really fucking hope WWE does not make the mistake of making with fucking Logan Paul, okay? The guy does not deserve to be a fucking United States champion, period. Originally that was a WCW championship, but we won't talk about that right now. And fucking, you can't fucking make this guy the WWE champion either. You can't fucking make him the face of the company. He's just a fucking YouTube celebrity, all right? There's so much other talent. There's so many other people that you could be pushing. But for 98, around this time, Goldberg, he was that guy, like I said. They promoted him to basically beat Hulk Hogan in the NWO.
Guys from the Falcons were there, former teammates. It felt like the Super Bowl. I mean, we sold out the Georgia Dome. 44,000 tickets, man. That place.
44,000 tickets were sold at the Georgia Dome for the match.
10 million people in the United States between Monday Night Raw and Nitro were zeroed in on professional wrestling. Mind-blowing. That really was the height of WCW. That was the coolest shit ever. The feeling that I got when I heard the crowd after I received the belt.
There it is. Goldberg defeats Hulk Hogan. And now essentially he's a double champion, the United States and the WCW World Heavyweight Champion.
Okay, why is this not on a pay-per-view? It's like, man, we could have made a lot more money.
And the first question that arose backstage was, why didn't we fucking put that on a pay-per-view? Why was that just on regular television? You could have made so much more fucking money. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is at the height of pro wrestling. This is when pro wrestling is essentially in its prime. It's not like today. This is way different, okay? You showed Goldberg defeating Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight Championship on what was basically a Monday Night Nitro episode, one of their biggest fucking matches of all time, one of the biggest outcomes of all time, right? This is like Hulk Hogan and the NWO have finally been fucking dethroned. Cody Rhodes is going to win the fucking WWE Championship at WrestleMania, Chad. He's going to fucking finish the story. That's what the fuck it was. But it wasn't at a WrestleMania, wasn't at a pay-per-view. Nope, they put that shit on television so people could watch that for free.
They kept it off TV for a while.
One of the things that I was criticized for was that I was putting pay-per-view quality matches on free TV.
WCW is getting higher ratings than anything else in the company. This is the hottest product we've got.
It didn't always advertise into the highest value that you could get for ad dollars. The disconnect between the advertising dollars and the size of the audience for wrestling became an issue.
One of the forces working against ad revenue was our ad. People wouldn't sell wrestling. They don't like it and they want to get rid of it. There's such pressure on Eric with opposition, not only in corporate, but also the people that reported to him. I mean, he had no friends.
We're going to take your paycheck. We're going to take your job. There was always a hint of ulterior motive, which at the end of the day could maybe mean the destruction of your company. But hold on.
So they've went backwards a little bit here. Now you're getting to see a little bit of the 96 timeline with the WWF. The reason they're going back here a little bit is because these are basically when WWF acquires most of the future stars, right? This is basically when they start getting Stone Cold as King of the Ring. You get Rock, and he's still a babyface, not the fucking Rock that we know it all today. And they're just starting to acquire more talent, right? The Hardys. You're starting to get Triple H a push. They acquired Mick Foley.
In the world of professional wrestling, any kind of fresh take on something is challenging to do. Back then, I was still opening match. Before the show ended, I was already back in my hotel room watching Nitro. I just wanted to see where they were doing things differently and figure out how we could do something like that, or possibly even better.
So what The Rock is saying is basically when the WWF first had him as a starter for the company, he would be in those opening matches, right? He would be first match on the card. By the time his match is over, he's already fucking booked at home in his hotel room, and now he's watching WCW Nitro. Why is he watching WC Nitro? He's studying the competition. He wants to see what they are doing differently than the WWF. Because, ladies and gentlemen, everybody's fucking jobs were on the line, okay? This wasn't just a joke where it was like, hey, if you fucking lost in the ratings, oh, well, boo-hoo, da-da-da, we're better than you, shit like that. That's not how it was, ladies and gentlemen. If you lost in the ratings, you were at the risk of losing your fucking job. You were at the risk of losing your career, okay? And you didn't know what the fuck would happen next, right? Maybe you got to go work an average job. How you going to explain it to your family? Shit didn't work out with the WWF. Everybody's out of business now. Nobody's paying your checks anymore. There you go. It was way more serious than just we're fucking better than you. This is everybody fighting for their job. And it's both companies at war with each other, okay? And they want to be different from the other. Whether that is, you know, in terms of characters, whether that's in terms of what happens with the matches, storylines, shit like that.
When you're getting your ass kicked week over week over week, which was our company, you're going to say, hey, fuck this. What do we need to do? WWE's answer to NWO was the Attitude Era. Okay, first of all, I refer to it as the Nitro Era because the Attitude Era was nothing more than a replication of the Nitro format. They were going after the same audience that I recognize as being underserved.
Eric Bischoff is definitely just blowing smoke up his ass here. Let me explain something to you, ladies and gentlemen, once again. Nitro had a completely different product from the WWF. They didn't focus on fucking gimmicky characters like clowns and firemen and policemen. They wanted their characters to be more focused around reality and actually tell stories where it felt real. It almost even felt like a Hollywood movie at times. Now, I would say this. The WWF didn't take any ideas from WCW. If anything, Vince McMahon and the WWF probably got way more inspiration from a promotion like ECW and Paul Heyman, because what Paul Heyman and ECW were doing was revolutionary in its own way. They started the hardcore wrestling format that becomes so popular today. Fucking, you get death matches on AEW events like it's a fucking ECW program. But we'll talk about that later. I have another thing that I want to add to that. But basically what I'm trying to say is Vince McMahon really got a lot of the Attitude Era idea and that kind of like mentality that we're just going to be more aggressive. We're going to be a little bit more of a violent show. I think not because of WCW, but it's because of ECW. Now, I'll say this. One of the main things that helped WWF and Monday Night Raw defeat WCW and Eric Bischoff, they had somebody like Mick Foley. Okay? Mick Foley is known as the hardcore legend. This guy has been fucking sacrificing his body his entire life. It got to a point he couldn't even fucking wrestle anymore because his body had just given up on him. Okay? That's how many hardcore matches that guy was doing. He also was an ECW member. Now think about this. When Mick Foley joined the WWF, one of the main highlights of his career was getting thrown off of that fucking Hell in a Cell by The Undertaker, okay? And not only did he get thrown off the fucking Hell in a Cell, he got back into the match, climbed the fucking cage again, and then got put through the fucking Hell in a Cell. So he went off the Hell in a Cell and then got put through the fucking roof in the same match. And he still continued the fucking match. He still continued to wrestle. Now that is hardcore, ladies and gentlemen. That is a fucking pro wrestler who is willing to sacrifice everything just for the entertainment of us fans. Nobody, absolutely fucking nobody on the WCW roster was willing to accumulate to that amount of sacrifice. They weren't going to have somebody fucking jump off a Hell in a Cell and damn near risk their life. Only person crazy enough to do that, he's working the WWF. He's working with Monday Night Raw. His name's Mick Foley. Is anybody going to try to fucking be crazier than Mick Foley? Not in the WCW.
Okay. We're in a fight. We've been dominating that fight. But this guy's coming back. It wasn't like we were hurting. They were just getting stronger. I mean, 98 was a record revenue year. But all of a sudden, none of that mattered anymore. And that affected WCW in ways that I didn't anticipate. I was introduced to a different kind of corporate structure with regard to WCW. In July of 1998, I was sitting in a meeting with 10 or 12 other people, it's much higher on the food chain than I am, telling me how I was going to operate WCW and change our target demographic that we had built an entire business upon. He said, no, we want kids and families.
What you really need for success is the people who are coming in on the outside.
But there was a discussion about, could they do it without being as lewd as WWE?
Vince McMahon and the WWE decided, let's do what Eric's doing, and let's do it better than them. Oh my God, he's on fire! That's exactly what they did. What a good day for
Ted Turner was very strict about things on the show that couldn't be done. Vince was quite happy to do all of that.
We will have less references to our enormous genitalia.
They took it into the gutter.
Doesn't matter. It worked.
You have Jenna Jameson on this show. Our rebuttal is, we'll give the guy an NWO shirt.
I guess there's a new member now, huh?
Everything we can possibly do to combat WWF, they're taking away from us.
Shut up, you idiot! We were being mandated to change the nature of the way we were producing our show. To go back to doing what we were doing when we couldn't even be a distant number two. I had taken the business out of the dumpster and turned it into a success story. Now all of a sudden, Standards and Practices is about to tell me what I can and can't do. Forget that. If push comes to shove, I'm just going to fight all this until it gets to Ted's desk. And then it's going to be me and this guy, and we'll see who wins.
Like a wrestling match. You heard the man himself, Ted Turner.
When you're winning and you're the guy, it's a lot of fun. And when you're losing, not so much fun. And it was hard on him at times, man. You could see it.
Eric was always a really positive person, really positive. And all of a sudden it shifted to negative.
Don't show anything unless we tell you to show it.
I found myself fighting with departments of Turner Broadcasting that I'd never heard of before. It took a lot out of me. One afternoon I was in my office and I was just out of gas, and Kevin came into my office.
And he's having such a hard time banging heads with everybody on everything.
And Kevin offered. He said, boss, why don't you listen, let me take over the book.
I'll even say this, ladies and gentlemen. I'll even say one of the main things that I can just completely disagree with in terms of WWF and Vince McMahon copying a WCW product. Eric Bischoff started as a salesman, got the opportunity to do some commentary, and then got the opportunity to fucking be a promoter for the WCW. Vince McMahon, on the other hand, studied the wrestling business from his father. Vince McMahon had always grown up around pro wrestling. Vince McMahon had more of a passion than Eric Bischoff ever did for pro wrestling, okay? In a story mode wise, if you want to talk about writing, WWF's one of their biggest stories at the time, it's Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon. It's a story of a worker versus his boss. How many people can relate to that? Mostly a lot of people here in America, right? They fucking hate their boss. Aside from that, in WCW, Eric Bischoff, he was partners with Hulk Hogan. He was always on the good side with Hogan. He always wanted to fucking be his buddy, right? It wasn't a boss versus a worker kind of story. That was happening in the WWF. So how the fuck can you say they copied everything that you did? You didn't do the same stories that Vince McMahon and the WWF were doing at all. And you certainly didn't have people who were fucking crazy enough to risk their life and their body like a Mick Foley. But Eric Bischoff, he was still competing.
Temporary. Get your feet back underneath you. Let me take this pressure off of you.
The head booker was the one determining whether the concepts for each week's show actually made air or not. I think it's been fairly well acknowledged that Kevin Nash, had been instrumental in being a huge part of the creative process.
There were other people I could have handed it off to, but I had confidence in Kevin's instincts.
So right there, you basically see the leaders. Right there is a perfect image. You got Hulk Hogan in a black and white NWO shirt, and then you got Kevin Nash in a black and red NWO Wolfpack shirt. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, completely reminds me in today's wrestling age, the Bloodline and the New Bloodline. Okay, the original Bloodline was Roman and the Usos. The New Bloodline is Solo Sikoa and the Haku Twins. It's basically the same shit to me.
So that's how it started. I said, I'll help you. I should have said, let's go to a strip club.
There's a big difference between being part of a group that throws ideas out and being the guy that says, I know you don't want to do this, but this is what you're going to do. Especially if you yourself are a talent. It was a bad situation, but it was the best case scenario.
And then again, just think about it from this perspective. The WWF is doing all this great shit at this time with Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, D-Generation X. They're getting all this heat and all this momentum. What is WCW's response to that? Well, we'll just create a fucking another NWO group. We'll just create the NWO Wolfpack, and we'll try to pick up the pieces and fix it from there.
It's quite simple.
That was their response to the WWF story writing, okay? That was their response to what WWF was doing. We'll just create another NWO.
And that's exactly what was happening.
He listened to all the guys that didn't have the best interest of the company in mind. I don't think that's debatable.
It's not just about being the biggest, strongest. It's about whose ass they kiss.
Sooner or later, someone will beat Goldberg.
Never had any problem with Bill. I was happy that he was getting pushed. But he's had the belt too long.
He was still really green and had no idea what he was doing. Not only did he keep hurting all the wrestlers that he works with, but he keeps hurting himself. I'm wrestling.
Goldberg was so fucking bad at wrestling. This guy only wouldn't fucking hurt the people he was in the ring with. He's out there fucking hurting himself. He doesn't even know what he's doing, ladies and gentlemen. He's out there literally fucking getting injured because of himself. He's fucking retarded at this point. Like, he doesn't know exactly what the fuck he's even doing in the ring. He's just getting put over.
Scott Hall, and I screw a spot up. And he's laying on the ground, and he looks up at me, and he goes, yo, man, what are you doing? And my reaction was, I don't fucking know what I'm doing. You're live on television, you're in front of your fans. I was scared shitless when I screwed that up, because I didn't know what was next. I didn't know what to do.
If you can't do that, you can't be the fucking top guy.
That's when I really realized there was a lot of shit going on, and it wasn't all for face value. So that's when I started really smartening up to it.
This document will represent the meeting of these two men at Starrcade. And this man wants him in the ring, doesn't he? Look at that. How doesn't he?
Yeah, I learned the good, bad, and the evil very quickly. I was jumping into shark-infested waters, to say the least.
So when they cut off right there, it was basically Kevin Nash versus Goldberg. Once again, on a WCW Monday Nitro episode. It's not fucking booked for the pay-per-view. They got that shit here on a weekly television show, chat.
Babyface always draws more money chasing the belt than having the belt.
Still undefeated here at WCW. The Son of Slams Goldberg.
It was a padded stat.
Who cares? We gave the people what they wanted. We've got to take him in a different direction in order for him to grow. I never got tired of watching Mike Tyson come out and annihilate people. So with the Ray Creative, there's ways to keep things going.
That's what you do. You chase with the baby face. And when he fucking gets it, you take it right fucking back. Because that's where the money is.
Kevin was a politician. There's nobody I've ever met that is a top talent that is not a politician. It's a job prerequisite. Just look at it on the surface.
So now they built the match up. Basically now, Kevin Nash and Goldberg are in a rivalry. Once again, Kevin Nash, leader of the NWO Wolfpack. He's basically in a position right here where he's going to have to drop the belt to Goldberg. And they're going to fucking put the title on Goldberg once again because they just believe Goldberg is the ultimate draw right now for WCW.
A pure physicality point of view. The way we had built Bill Goldberg up to be this indestructible man-eating monster, who on that roster looked like they could possibly beat that monster?
Continuing the streak.
And Kevin Nash standing at nearly 7 foot, 6'10", whatever he is, probably at that time 340, 350 pounds. It was believable.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Starrcade match. I do believe that Kevin Nash does beat Goldberg here, but it's because Kevin Nash basically tried to fucking insist on Goldberg, like, listen, you'll get the belt again, but it has to be in a way where we can draw people, okay? The people have to want to see you as the World Heavyweight Champion, or you can't, you know, if they just put the title on you, they're just going to be happy and nobody's going to pay tickets anymore. So, once again, this is at a Starrcade. It's WCW's version, essentially, of a WrestleMania. The main event is Kevin Nash versus Goldberg. It's not a fucking technical masterpiece. It's always going to be a shit show if you have two non-technical wrestlers in your main event, but that was the Starrcade main event. Again, that was what they were doing to compete with the WrestleMania. So there you go.
What I needed was somebody who could tell a story with a finish.
The finish I wanted was beat him 1, 2, 3, like the same way he was winning. Clean. But they thought that he needed something more to lose.
So right here, Goldberg's getting attacked by the NWO members.
Yeah, no.
They fucking hit Goldberg with the stun gun. They tased the absolute life out of him.
That was a mistake.
You watch that match back. When I powerbomb him.
And because Goldberg suffered the taser, now he gets the powerbomb. There's the jackknife powerbomb from Kevin Nash. And what Kevin Nash is going to do, he gets the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. So he does beat Goldberg there. He takes the title from Goldberg. Apparently this was a match where Goldberg was actually the World Heavyweight Champion. So now they've removed the World Heavyweight Championship from the face of the company, who is Goldberg at this time, and they basically give the World Heavyweight Championship right back to the NWO. It's right back in the NWO's hands as soon as Kevin Nash gets the victory over Goldberg at a Starrcade. Let me just remind you, ladies and gentlemen, this main event for Starrcade, it's Kevin Nash versus Goldberg, okay? What is the WWF doing? They're doing Stone Cold versus The Rock. They're doing The Undertaker versus Psycho Sid.
Did I like it? Fuck no. Did I question it? Everybody questioned it. But I don't control that shit. I go out and I do my job.
I think it was quite clear that...
So Goldberg gets the life tased out of him. He loses the belt at Starrcade. And now the World Heavyweight Championship is once again in the hands of NWO members.
To right the wrongs that happened at Starrcade. Me and you, Goldberg, in Atlanta for the belt.
You have to imagine being in the audience on that night. It's January. It's an incredible atmosphere. But at the same time, a taped edition of Raw was happening on the other station. There was going to be a title change on that show.
So this is January 4th, 1999. The year is 1999 at this point specifically. They're basically saying that Monday Night Raw had a pre-taped show and there was going to be a title change. So WCW was going to give away those results on whoever won the title for the Monday Night Raw episode. The main event for that night was going to be The Rock versus Mankind for the WWF Championship. And The Rock and Mankind had a way fucking better, more entertaining rivalry than anything Kevin Nash and Goldberg ever did in WCW. That's just my perspective. That's my opinion. But I would put The Rock and Mankind rivalry way over anything Kevin Nash and Goldberg ever did for WCW.
WCW had to remind viewers that this is where the real action is.
I say, fuck this. I'll fight Goldberg again.
But that ends up taking a rather bizarre turn and devolving into a situation in which Hollywood Hogan comes back into the mix and challenges Nash to a match.
After tonight, when I beat Kevin Nash, when I retire with the World Heavyweight title, you can just call me Hollywood, the Big Bad Wolf.
We were creating this illusion of a conflict between Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash. And we built it up like it was going to be the match of ages in the NWO to determine the fate of the organization.
They built up the match like it was going to be the fucking final outcome for the WCW product. It was going to be NWO, Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus NWO Wolfpack Kevin Nash for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Doesn't it sound so fucking good, ladies and gentlemen? It fucking probably sounds so good on paper, and then you get this bullshit.
Hogan got to the ring and he looked all serious. Kevin Nash came to the ring. He looked like he wanted to eat Hulk Hogan for lunch. And they get close together. They're almost chest to chest, nose to nose.
And there you go. That was the finish of the match. It was known as one of the worst fucking finishes in wrestling history. One of the worst fucking outcomes ever seen for pro wrestling fans. Ladies and gentlemen, as soon as the fucking match started, Hulk Hogan, he walks up to Kevin Nash. They square up, they're face to face. Again, they built it up like who's gonna fucking win? Is it gonna be the NWO? Is it gonna be the NWO Wolfpack? So match starts. Hulk Hogan goes right up to Kevin Nash and he fucking pokes him. He pokes him with his finger, hits him right in the chest. Kevin Nash basically sells it like he just got shot with the fucking bullet, right? He just got shot with the 50 cal from fucking miles away. He's down. He's lifeless. This is your World Heavyweight Champion again, ladies and gentlemen. This is the World Heavyweight Champion who just probably like a month ago, maybe even a couple weeks ago, just beat fucking Goldberg at Starrcade, what's supposed to be WrestleMania for WCW. So the World Heavyweight Champion has just now got hit with the fucking 50 cal bullet known as Hulk Hogan. He's fucking down. He's out. And what do you think the outcome of the match is going to be? 1, 2, 3. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's your big main event on WCW Monday Nitro. In competition to Mankind and The Rock.
Keep the belt in the family. That's ultimately what it was all about.
When that happened.
So, an NWO member lost the World Heavyweight Championship to another NWO member. And that was their whole reason for writing it, right? That was their whole reason for why they made that happen. They said we wanted to keep the World Heavyweight Championship in the NWO family. Couldn't give it to anybody else on the fucking roster. Couldn't give it to any other Mid Carter. You know, fuck that. We're just gonna put it right back in the NWO's hands. Because what's WWF doing? They got Mick Foley versus The Rock. Well, Mick Foley, The Rock fucking kicked your ass, WCW.
Fans around the world say that's exactly when WCW started to go downhill. That's dirt sheet material.
You know why people hate that so much? Because it got them. Look at the crowd.
It got absolutely nobody.
What the fuck they've said.
People expected to see something and they felt like they got fucked.
WCW had chronic bad finish disease. Sometimes just a good, clean finish is the best thing. That same night, Mick Foley was going to be wrestling The Rock. As I often had with Nitro, and became famous for giving away their finishes, starting my show 2 minutes before they started their show. I thought, why not go back to the well and give them a reason not to watch Rock and Mick?
We understand that Mick Foley, who wrestled here one time as Cactus Jack, is going to win their world title.
That fucking Eric Bischoff, he just spoiled the match. He took a shot. A big chunk of WCW Nitro's audience went, really? That's going on over there? I'm going too. And they left.
So what happened when Eric Bischoff gave away the results of Mankind basically going to defeat The Rock for the WWF Championship? He gave away those results, and that didn't distract the fans. That didn't take the fans away from the WWF product. If anything, it added more interest to them, right? It intrigued them more because now they wanted to see Mick Foley defeat The Rock for the WWF Championship. They wanted to see Mick Foley finally become a fucking WWF champion. And that's what they did. They started watching WWF because that was a better story. That actually fucking interested them more and entertained them more.
So it backfired in a huge way. 2 big moves in one night. Finger poke of doom and crap it all over Rock and Mick.
So WCW, and this is literally happening in the same night again. WCW had Kevin Nash versus Hulk Hogan. The match was known as the Finger Poke of Doom because that's how the fuck it ended. Hulk Hogan poked Kevin Nash in the chest. Kevin Nash acted like he got hit with the fucking 50 caliber bullet, and he lost the championship to who? An NWO member. Now, what is considered one of the biggest, maybe if not the biggest fucking highest rated Monday Night Raw episode of all time, ladies and gentlemen, the highest rated episode of all time was when Mick Foley defeated The Rock for the WWF Championship. This is all happening in the same night. It's January 4th, 1999. That's the date. Both of these things happened at the exact same time.
Neither one of them worked very well. We got a little lucky that night. We had a great match, me and Mick. That was a real defining moment.
This feels pretty damn good.
There was a lot of mistakes to be on, but my check didn't change.
The infighting, the jealousy, who is Eric going to listen to, all that started to disintegrate something that was so cool and hot. We were our own worst enemies. It was bad enough the turn executives didn't want us. We did ourselves no favors.
Now, a discussion about
Probably like another 15 minutes left in this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everybody, for staying with me and watching Who Killed WCW episode 2.
A little bit that wrestling is so popular. I didn't know that was the promise of cable.
4 years ago, I went to a wrestling event, and as you were going on the highway, you were basically seeing people in pickup trucks, going. A month ago, I went to a WCW Monday Nitro event. There were 40,000 people, sold out in 1 hour, and all I'm seeing are families going. So we're not embarrassed by it at all. When you're a single organization and you do one thing, which is professional wrestling, it's very different than when you're a company like Time Warner and you've got a lot of businesses that have to get sorted out.
You're going to have people who kind of look at this and go, is this classy enough for our networks? How is that going to rub off on our brand?
Well, wrestling may be a good product for some, but we are, after all, the world's leader in news and entertainment, and that was the rationale. We just don't like it.
So what they're saying here, ladies and gentlemen, is basically the people at Turner Broadcasting, the people who worked at TNT and TBS, they were the presidents of the organization. They're basically saying, hey, when we watch this wrestling show, WCW, it really doesn't seem all that fucking family friendly, right? They wanted WCW to be for the family. They wanted it to be something that the family could just turn on, enjoy that, and everybody in the room can watch it together. Now, what's WWF doing at this time? They got sex. They got violence. They got blood. All right. They're on a way completely different channel. They're on the USA Network. Okay. And USA Network is also approving of everything that the WWF is doing, maybe to an extent, right? Because sometimes it hits that gray area of can they really get away with this? They fucking did it on live television. Happened just a few years ago. WCW, their presidents, the suits who run the company and give Eric Bischoff the money to make a production, are now telling him, hey, instead of doing what the WWF is doing, we need this shit to be more family friendly. We want this shit, when people pay for our services, when they pay to watch these channels, we want them to watch it as a family.
The fact that WCW became successful was really frustrating for a lot of people. It was not part of the plan. It never was part of the plan. You know, the average person's go, well, why would anybody care? And I'll tell you why. Because WCW occupied prime time beachfront property on TNT. There were a lot of people that wanted that prime time real estate and were frustrated at our success because we got it.
There were so many demands from different places and a lot of answering to shareholders that have expectations. And WCW got caught up in that.
Well, the revenue challenges were simple. One of the goals of Turner Broadcasting was to enhance the bottom line of various divisions that they wanted to hold on to. Let's take some of their debt and move it over here. So they reallocated the guts out of my budget so that money could be moved over to other divisions. It made their bottom line look that much better.
We'll recognize all those earnings at TBS.
And because they do business with WCW, we're going to move some of those losses over here. So WCW's books look a little worse because we want it to go away anyway.
You could have probably made it profitable if WCW charged a boatload of money for carrying wrestling to TNT and to TBS. But because we wanted TNT and TBS to be much more profitable, the license fee we paid was very low. And that was, you know, not my decision.
They didn't care if they had to sacrifice WCW. That's kind of what they wanted to do all along anyway. There were people deconstructing WCW from a budgetary perspective right underneath everybody else's noses.
So what they're saying here is in 1999, again, remember the year's 99, this is basically coming to the end of the Monday Night Wars. What they're saying, what Eric Bischoff is saying, is it didn't matter to the suits who fucking worked for TBS and TNT. It didn't matter to them if they cut the budget. It didn't matter to them if WCW looked like an even worse show than the WWF, because at the end of the day, the people who worked for TBS and TNT, they did not care about pro wrestling. They did not give a fuck, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what did I say earlier? The main difference between Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon was Vince McMahon's love and passion for pro wrestling. He wanted to fucking keep it alive way more than anybody working for TBS or TNT ever fucking did. Because to them, it was just something that they could do away with whenever they felt like it. Okay? It's here today. It's going to be gone tomorrow. They still got millions in their bank account. They still got other shows other than wrestling that people can watch on their channel. Okay? So to them, pro wrestling and WCW, it did not fucking matter. They could lose as much money as they wanted, and they would be like, well, we gave you a shot, and we're going to move on from you now. So that's how the mentality was for TBS and TNT. They did not fucking care if pro wrestling died.
The reason we became so successful is what, in retrospect, looked like bad deals. The no-cut contracts, creative controls, and all those things were necessary to swing the immediate tide over.
I guess you'd like me to sign that, wouldn't you, huh?
Everybody was making 7 figures plus.
You see this?
People know how much this guy's getting, and they want to know why they're not getting as much.
Just drew their money and did nothing.
Basically, all of the top stars are making around 7 figures. We're talking guys like Ric Flair, who might not even be wrestling every single week. Obviously, Hulk Hogan. You got Kevin Nash, Goldberg, Sting. All of those guys that I just named off are making 7 figures. And that's way more money than the mid-card or the opening matches are seeing, okay? When you're making 7 figures, you're fucking living pretty good in 1999.
Oh, you work here? Oh, you've been collecting money for a year sitting on your ass.
Face? I can only imagine how much money went out. Like, they got what? ATM, Eric. The inference was, well, Eric has access to Ted Turner's money. All he needs to do is write a check. He can hire anybody he wants. Like I was an ATM machine.
I get to spend a billionaire's money.
I got a call from Harvey Schiller. Harvey said, Eric, I need you to come up to my office. Now, Harvey very rarely summoned me to his office. Essentially, Harvey brought me in to let me know that I had been under a forensic investigation for misuse of funds. And I thought, this can't be real. Presumably, somebody had met an executive from Time Warner and laid out this crazy story. Eric's just handing out $1 million contracts right and left. But this individual suggested that the reason I was doing that is because those wrestlers were giving me a kickback. So Harvey proceeded to tell me how this forensic investigation proved that none of that was true. They wanted to come clean and also to let me know it was complete bullshit. That pissed me off. I didn't quit my job. I wish I would have. That was the moment that I quit being loyal to the company.
So now it's even gotten to the point in 1999 where Eric Bischoff, he's pretty much just had enough, okay? He's pretty much just said, hey, if this company is going under, he doesn't care either. You know what I mean? He's at the point now where he doesn't even fucking want to do business with the people that are giving him money. And it's getting to the point where nobody at WCW even gives a flying fuck anymore, ladies and gentlemen, okay? The people who are giving Eric Bischoff the money, they don't care if pro wrestling dies. And Eric Bischoff, the main promoter for WCW, he's getting to the point where he's just about to fucking walk out the door.
Fuck them.
When I think back on my career, there's always be a little bitterness about that time period. I had so many things left unfinished in my career, things I wanted to do. To watch what WCW did with me, it was sad.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is basically going to turn into the Bret Hart segment of the show. You know, we will say rest in peace to Owen Hart. Again, a Hart Foundation member. He was Bret's brother, and both of them, you know, they both could have went on and done some amazing things in their career, ladies and gentlemen, honestly. The career of Owen Hart, it was cut short. It was a tragic way that it ended. It should have never fucking happened that way. And Bret Hart's career was also cut short. It should have fucking went on way longer than it should have. Bret Hart even said himself he wanted to accomplish way more in pro wrestling. He wanted to do way more. He could not because he got injured, okay? And the person who injured him was Goldberg. Goldberg is responsible for taking away the career of Bret Hart.
They're killing me off on purpose. And they did.
I've always known that sooner or later I'd have to step in the ring with Bill Goldberg.
So now it's Starrcade, December 19th, 1999. The main event for this Starrcade, again, this is in competition to WrestleMania. And I believe, 1999, we're talking like WrestleMania 15. That's probably Stone Cold versus The Rock in the main event, if I am correct. It was, so you got Stone Cold and The Rock in the main event at WrestleMania 15. And then over here in Starrcade, guess who's in the main event? It's fucking bitch-ass Goldberg. And his opponent is going to be Bret Hart.
Man, running him over like a car. I would pull him aside and say, I want to teach you how to actually not hurt guys. And when I walked out to the ring with Bill that night,
And I remember I really looked him in the eyes and said, "Don't hurt me out there. You need to trust me." And, went in one ear, out the other. I really think Bill just saw me as another job guy, someone that was cannon fodder. If you're watching that match, Bill goes, "Watch the kick." And I'm like, "Watch the kick?" And I don't understand what he's doing to me. He kicked me as hard as he could.
He said fucking Goldberg kicked him as hard as he could, ladies and gentlemen. He super kicks Bret Hart directly in the face, to what Bret Hart is explaining, as hard as Goldberg could fucking put on the move, as hard as he could kick a person in the face, that is what Bret Hart had to endure.
You can see me grab my neck. I was concussed.
He's immediately grabbing his neck. He's immediately got a fucking concussion because Goldberg just put all of his fucking strength into a super kick, probably knocked him out during the fucking match, had to regain consciousness.
You should protect yourself. You knew the kick was coming, right? I mean, it was in the deal.
It was never...
And all Goldberg can say is, well, Bret Hart should have fucking protected himself.
Talked about or explained to me, I do this move where I kick guys in the head as hard as I can.
Nobody deserves that. But it was a freaking accident. Complete accident.
No, Bill, that's not an accident. That's a career-ending injury, you idiot. I somehow willed myself to stand up to be run over by this imbecile.
And then somehow fucking Bret Hart manages to stand up on his own strength, ladies and gentlemen. Again, he's probably suffering a concussion at this point. Still fucking gets up in the match. And the next move he gets hit with is the fucking football tackle. It's Goldberg's spear coming right the fuck at you, full force.
It was one of the saddest days of my life. And I knew my career was over.
He never aspired to do anything else other than be that guy. And I ended that for him. I've never been so remorseful, and I have been for years. But fuck, man, I can't do anything else.
Bill Goldberg was not qualified, but he's our star. They just look the other way. And you go through the type of brain injury that I went through, you're just grateful to be alive.
Bret Hart suffered a brain injury because of the fucking idiot Goldberg out there not even fucking knowing what he's doing in the wrestling match.
It was just such a lousy ending for such a great career.
And that was the way that Bret Hart's career ended, ladies and gentlemen. That was the very fucking way that it ended. It ended because of Goldberg. I'm not going to mention we'll not talk about what happened with Owen Hart. Rest in peace, one of the greatest of all time. One of my favorite matches of all time is between Bret Hart and his brother Owen. It happened at a SummerSlam. They had a steel cage match. Okay? And then I also remember watching the match that they had at WrestleMania 10. And that was a fucking great match. The reason they had that match at WrestleMania 10 is because at that point, the company was already getting fucking done with Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was already on his way out. So the future of the company at that point were going to be guys like Bret Hart and Owen Hart. Okay? And then you basically just fast forward maybe 5 years from that match, and now, you know, both of their careers are basically finished.
It just shows that WCW never really appreciated or understood the talent that they had. They dropped the ball with me, and he knows it, and I know it, and fans know it. In the end, Eric Bischoff only can answer to himself.
By the summer of '99, I was toast. I was frustrated, angry, demoralized, lost hope. Once you lose that, it's pretty much over, and that's where I was at. I was pretty disrespectful, intentionally, because I always thought I had Ted's support in my back pocket. And I didn't know what was going on with Ted.
So in October of 1996, the Turner-Time Warner merger was finalized. And famously, Ted Turner...
So around 1996, Turner and Time Warner finally become partners, and it becomes one big unit, basically, one big organization.
He's losing more and more control. More control goes to the bureaucrats. More control goes to the executive types.
He couldn't protect Eric. He couldn't protect anybody at that point.
These fans love you. We want to see more of you.
That was the opportunity so many people within Turner Broadcasting wanted and now finally had. I was out of ammunition, out of everything.
So it's definitely coming to the end of the episode here, guys.
It was several years before I recognized just how much freedom I had and how unique of an opportunity I had. The freedom is what led to WCW being successful. The time I spent battling internally, it took the fun out of it for me.
If it wasn't for the NWO and moi, none of you people would be here tonight.
If I had to reflect back on that snapshot, summer of '99 may have been one of the worst periods of my life, all the way across the board. September 10th, 1999, I get up like any other morning. I'm on my way to work, and I get a phone call from Harvey. And Harvey said, Eric, you need to come to my office. I got to the CNN Center, went up to Harvey's office, and he said, Eric, you need to go home. I said, Harvey, I'll get home in a little while, but I've got a pay-per-view on something.
The WCW Fall Brawl of 1999.
He said, not anymore. And that's when it dawned on me. And I'll be honest with you, it was a combination of confusion because it hadn't quite sunk in, and relief. I wasn't disappointed. I didn't fight it.
I was shocked. How many years head start had Vince had? And then he beat him for 83 straight weeks.
I did it!
Pretty impressive record.
What do you say about Eric Bischoff? It's what you call taking the bull by the horns.
What Eric did was impossible, in spite of the fact that everybody was against him. I don't know how he didn't blow his brains out.
Basically, it also comes down to around 1999. This is when the WWF and the Attitude Era have completely stricken a chord with the WCW. I mean, they fucking rattled them so much. They're about to fire Eric Bischoff, the guy who just defeated Vince McMahon for 83 straight weeks. It's getting to the point in 1999, they can no longer compete with Monday Night Raw and the Attitude Era.
This has got to be the most terrible circumstances for anybody to work in.
I pulled into the driveway.
He walks in the door and I asked him,
What are you doing here? And I sat down at the kitchen table and I said, I got fired.
I think he was a bit rattled.
She said, what are you going to do?
He got in his plane, threw his stuff in a bag and flew himself to Cody, Wyoming.
The next day I was fishing right up the road from where I live right now. The fishing was awesome, by the way. It was awesome that day.
I'll give Eric his props. At the end of the day, it was his idea for the NWO. He did push the Luchadors. He did push Goldberg.
They're saying some compliments now. Eric Bischoff is responsible for the creation of the NWO. That was nobody else's idea other than his, and probably Hulk Hogan's. But Hulk Hogan was just going to be the third man in a group that was pretty much already created by Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff also gave Lucha Libre a chance on American television, okay? He signed the Luchadors. He gave them a place where they could actually wrestle and make some money here in America. He is responsible for that as well. It's probably part of the reason WWE, AEW, a lot of other promotions, they showcase all of those different styles now, okay? But Eric Bischoff really gave Lucha Libre a chance here in America. He is responsible for that.
Eric put the pieces of that puzzle together. And it wasn't his money and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. He knew what he was doing.
The moves he made by getting Hogan, Savage, Ash and the remake of Sting. There were so many good things he did.
Wait a minute.
He's also responsible for the remodel of the character Sting. Okay, Sting when he was first WCW, he'd wear the colorful face paint. He was the baby face to the T, and then he became more similar to like a Crow, a darker, more shadowy like character who would always be the defense of WCW against guys like the NWO and whatnot. But he is responsible for probably the Sting that most wrestling fans know today, okay, which is the Crow version of Sting. He did create that version of the Sting character.
Didn't get involved in his world. I didn't know the intricacies of the soap opera. Eric knew that. In those years that we were crushing it, Eric delivered exactly what I asked him to deliver.
This is where the big boys play, huh? We ain't here to play. Hollywood and the Hill. It's the NWO.
I mean, no matter what you think about Eric later down the road, he really is one of those people who worked his butt off. He worked hard and he stayed at it. And he is great to work with.
It is my honor and my privilege to introduce you to the man, Vince Russo.
He's the man behind all the storylines in WWE.
Now we've got him. We've got their genius. He's using Jeff Jarrett's testicles for punching bags.
His thing was, let's get the audience that isn't watching wrestling.
There was lots of shock and awe.
We made it not advertiser friendly.
Eric's boys were not in tune with what Russo wanted.
And I got plans for you, pal.
Vince Russo, you're going to fucking hell just for that.
Those guys didn't want to give up their spots.
Yeah, because we earned our spot.
This is a television show. You want to go to a wrestling show, go to a house show.
I think we're deviating from the script. What the hell is going on?
That's going to go down as one of the most infamous moments in the history of television.
That's why this company's in the damn shape it's in, because of bullshit like this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the end of episode 2 for Who Killed WCW. It seems like in episode 3, we're going to finally discuss Vince Russo, how he came over from the WWF, and his responsibility in the WCW when he arrived. Like I said on the first episode, I really felt like them bringing in Vince Russo probably wasn't the best decision for creative, because by the time Vince Russo gets there around like late 99, early 2000, the company's already in the shithole, okay? He's trying to fix a horse with a broken leg. Now, I do want to talk about something else on the next episode. For episode 3, we'll discuss it. I'll keep it in my mind for you guys. But as good as Vince Russo did in the WWF, that's the entire reason he got brought over to the WCW, okay? Because essentially that was like their final shot in the dark. You know, they only had a plethora of writers that they could select from at this point in time. So why not get the guy who basically just got done kicking your ass and created all these crazy stories for the WWF? Why not bring him over and see what he does for the WCW? Well, we will see what he did for WCW on episode 3, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everybody, for watching with me here tonight. We will be back later today for our 1:30. We will start at 1:30 and we'll begin to watch Clash at the Castle 2024. That pay-per-view is later today. And then later tonight, I'm also thinking about doing a little bit of late night streaming with you guys. We'll check out some Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs in season 1, which began in 2018. But we'll just probably watch a couple episodes of that, maybe 1 or 2. Like I said, pretty much a big day here for streaming on my channels. And that's going to do it for episode 2 of Who Killed WCW. So I'm very sorry what happened to the careers of Owen Hart and Bret Hart. It should have never went down the way that it did for both of them. And they definitely do deserve a whole lot better. You know what I mean? They definitely deserve to have way longer careers than how all of that shit came to an end. And Vince Russo, is he going to save WCW? You'll find out on the next episode, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you for watching. we'll be back later today. Until then, peace, God.